I'm not here to talk about the kalimba today. Music's busiest internet nobody here for another episode of Pink Guitar Metal. This is tips and tricks. One is new strings by Ernie Ball, which are very interesting. This idea has been around a long time. I'm sure many people have designed their own packs of strings or their own string combinations. This is a 48 to 10 set. So it's 48, 38, 28 for your lows. So I can take this guitar, which I play at C flat, or C sharp, like a lot of the southern doom bands. And I run 10 gauge strings on it and just play lighter, but this still gives me that the 10, 13, and 17 for my high strings, but then I get a beefier sound for when I drop tune, especially down to A, whatever that is, A flat or whatever, 48, 38, 28, and yeah, so you got essentially that low end, crunch and being able to hit the strings a little harder. I'll have to set my saddles up, double check my intonation, make sure my string height is right, and go through here, make sure that the LSR roller should accommodate another gauge, a larger gauge string. A 48 isn't a huge jump. I think it's like an 11. 11s or whatever, maybe those are 47, 48 on the low, I don't know, but the 48, 10, this is a great idea. I don't know, I'm going on and on, but it's good. It's good news. It's good news and an easy package. And I've been doing this for a while with my bass, where I'll take a 6 string pack of bass strings, and since I tune my bass so low, I can then drop the higher strings and use the 4 low ones on a 4-string bass and be able to still stay intonated and sound clear while being tuned really low. So strings and tension and all that brings into a lot of other factors about neck relief, and if you have thicker cables and you're tightening them, it's going to pull that neck up, and the truss rod's going to have to be adjusted to compensate to keep it flat. And that's where a level comes in handy on the fretboard to make sure everything is straight on the guitar. So changing strings is not always that easy, which brings me to the next thing. And if you've ever seen one of these and know what they are, it's a part that's laying around, and Floyd Rose tremolos scare you to change strings, and you only do one at a time because you don't want to lose your trem, and I understand. But if you want to work on your guitar without the strings and just keep everything from just falling apart, all you have to do, I used to try credit cards, different things, and I found the back of a Stratocaster spring plate cover from a guitar is an awesome stabilizer to go under a bridge in the back for a Floyd. When you want to keep it set in a spot, you lift it up and slide this under, and it'll hold your trem level and not have it just fall off, and if you were to take all the strings off at once. And that is a great way to work on your guitar and just keep that there and keep it where your fulcrum, because you got to remember, with a Floyd Rose, it's in a constant state of flux because no spring ever stays perfectly adjusted. But for a free floating trem that goes back and forward, so down to dive bomb, back to pull up and raise the pitch, you have to constantly keep in mind the adjustment, because depending on what gauge strings you use depends on how much string tension and how many springs you need to use in the back. I'm sure people have been frustrated. If you've ever had a Floyd Rose, it's angled it should be completely flat. So like the tension should make it so it settles like this one, where it is flat with the neck, where the neck is here, and the this is perpendicular to the surface of the guitar, but just raised to allow for the pullback. And this doesn't have a big cutaway swimming pool. Like, I mean, I could route it out so I could pull it back further, but I actually like the way Van Halen set up these Kramer Berettas when he helped design them. There's a really flat radius. The neck has got an extremely, I think it's, oh man, it's like a 7, the lower the number, the flatter. So I think it's an 11, a radius of 11, or am I wrong? Is it the higher the number, the flatter? That's how it goes. The higher the number, the flatter. I'm blanking out. I need to like just quick look at before I give wrong information when I'm just blanking out on a silly thing. Let me just think about real quick. Neck radius numbers, which leads me to my next really important must-have for all people who work on their own guitars. Like I got something, a book for you to get, and I'm going to show it to you, that answers so many questions about being your own tech and setting up your own stuff and making it stay in tune and sound great. And even if you don't know much, so on Sweetwater, what is a fingerboard radius? And you know, I don't have fancy capabilities here to share things, but so it's, you know, like I was right. So the higher the number, the flatter the radius. And there could be guitars that have those really round necks, like some of the Strats. I mean, you could be a 7.2-inch radius, and then radius. That's a fret and radius mixed together. I don't know what I'm talking about. And then like a 16, or I think this Beretta is a 17, is a really flat radius, and you know, the flatter, to me, I like that because I think it plays fast. But the guitar, my custom guitar, is somewhere in between there. It's like this is got more of a radius to it. I don't know if you could see that, but this has got a little bit more of it doesn't have as thin of a neck. It's more of a, like a traditional C-shaped Stratocaster type neck feeling in the hand, instead of like a wizard neck, which is the thinnest extreme, and then a Les Paul, which is like a baseball bat to me. And then there's my Ibanez Sabre, which is like it has an insanely, and it's scalloped. That guitar is just nuts. Has a really extreme thin neck and very sensitive, not good for getting knocked around, but this thing's a workhorse, and I'm excited to put the Ernie balls in. Every time before I play, I use one of these things, and of course mine is pink, and when I wipe the back of my neck down before I play, I use this scouring pad. And you're like, oh my god, why would you use a scouring pad on a nitro finish or polyurethane neck? It's because the scouring pad is a very low abrasive scouring pad, and what it does is over time it just mimics the action of, say, like a calloused thumb sliding on the back of a neck and giving it natural wear, like a relic from Fender or something. Well, when you use this, it just slowly turns it doesn't take off material like sandpaper per se. What it does is just slowly turns your like sticky shiny polyurethane finish into a more of a satin or a smoother finish for your thumb to travel along when you're going fast, and you don't have that friction. And the other guitar here, I actually reshaped the neck and made it flatter in the back, and I put some paint pigment down there to see when it became even while sanding. Until all that pink was gone, I knew that then, what high spots and low spots were. I got this thinned down more, and I have a very satin, a very flat finish right now because I haven't tongue oiled it yet. I just keep going over it and keep smoothing it until I get it to the exact, because it's like the old saying, you can't put it back on, but you can always take more off. So I figured, don't use things that are too harsh on a guitar and destroy it, because then you're calling Wormouth or somewhere to get a neck, and that's just not a viable option for a lot of guitars that aren't real popular. Because the neck pocket was so precision done on the custom that was made for me that there's nothing, I can't fit a razor in there. It is so tight and well built that it sits in there, and if these screws are tight, which they always are, I always check that in a crisscross pattern. I tighten these a little at a time, and you just keep going in an X pattern, do till it's tight and drawn down. You never want to crank one screw really tight and then follow up. That's crazy. It's like a wheel on a car. You wouldn't tighten one lug nut all the way down and then the other ones after, because it wouldn't line up right. You would limit your ability to have it set correctly. And a tight neck pocket does a lot of that for you, because the neck sits in there perfect. All these have to do is draw it down tight and keep it secure. And unless it's one of those pain in the ass guitars where you have to take the neck off to adjust the truss rod, I can't stand that. Truss rod is easily accessible through here. That's why there's never a plate. I never have the plates covering mine, because I adjust the truss rod on my guitar all the time, because humidity changes in the Northeast and you need to constantly adjust your tension on your neck, the relief, and or the lack of relief. That needs to be kept in mind. But there's a lot of guys that don't like Dan Irwin, but I think he's a genius. This book, it's called How to Make Your Electric Guitar Play Great, and it's also how to make your electric guitar sound great. It says secrets for buying and using a guitar, make it easier to play and better sounding, includes snap out tools, which are really handy. A radius tool, and I've used that for setting saddles to match the exact radius of guitars. There's templates. It's a wonderful book, and it goes through in detail and shows you everything. Let me just go to Tunematic. I was working on a Gibson or an SG last night, and I referred to the old Tunematic section here, just to remember. I was swapping some Graphtec saddles into a Tunematic bridge, and how to set your tailpiece up. You don't want to have too much string break after your tailpiece. And then Zach Wild set my guitar up one night before we opened for Black Label Society, and he saw me playing a Les Paul, and he was like, dude, here, let me help you set this up a little bit. Let's raise that rear tailpiece over the bridge and make the break less extreme, so you get more ability to vibrato or bend your strings when you pull your pinch harmonics. So you know, I've learned a lot of things from people directly over the years, but this thing has been like my go-to manual. And, you know, I have a friend, Brian Mason, who's a really experienced guitarist and great guitar repair guy. He plays in the band Contrarians, Sulaco, Bailey Mason Liquors, BML. He plays in, God, him and Eric Burke from Rochester are involved in so many projects, but he's not a big fan of this guy. And Brian builds guitars. I have one of his basses. I have a Mason here with a badass bridge and everything, and this is an alder body, and this is one of the Mason Customs, and he's a Rochester guy, and that's my favorite bass I've ever played. It's the most heavy sounding, Sabbath sounding, crazy. You could do anything from tech metal to doom to anything, but that bass is fun to play. But definitely how to make your electric guitar play great, or Dan Irwin, and he even makes some guitars, and get ready to spend 20 grand, or whoever knows, I don't know. He built Jerry Garcia's famous Numbers guitar. This guy built Jerry a guitar during a New Year's party. They discussed he wanted a neck flat as a battleship, a guitar that sounded and sustained and could handle the rigors of the road and this and that. And Dan Irwin spent a year building this thing to bring to the next year's New Year's Eve party. So he gets this guitar built, brings it the next year, and Jerry Garcia, I mean, could you believe he spaced out and forgot? They owed this guy 20 grand for making him a guitar. And he eventually paid him, and there's a period where you see him playing a brown Stratocaster, number Strat, before his famous guitars that he played before he died with the sharp angles that another builder made. But Dan Irwin built built Albert King, the blues player, a beautiful Flying V. So he does still make those two guitars. When you buy things from Dan Irwin, you are considered a patron, because he's like an artist. It'd be like Michelangelo was his patrons were the Vatican. You know what I mean? It's like Dan Irwin, it's you. You're the patron, and you're paying big money, and you're gonna get a great guitar in return. I don't know if it's worth the money, but it could be. I would love to have one. I would love to have that number Strat. I'd rather have a Jason Becker Numbers guitar more, though, to be honest with you, from Kiesel. The Jason Becker guitar. That's my dream guitar. If anybody wants to buy me a gift, I'll take that Jason Becker Numbers guitar, because he's my hero, inspiration in life, and for forging ahead during adversity and stuff. So I highly suggest you also look at the life of Jason Becker, as any guitarist should. But that's my spiel for today. So check out this book by Dan Irwin. Can't say enough. And any questions, just leave them in the bottom. I'd be happy to elaborate more, or something like that. So all right, you have a good day. Take care.